think it's after 7 now,
Train.
and
Take my piece of
Meredith
wire.
is on the way, but
It's
it's
like
going
all
to be a
those
few minutes
people,
late.
Like that train
So
company is
I'd like to
being
call to
hedged.
order the regular board meeting
Their board
for the
is
month of
apparently
February.
billionaires, right?
And
They downplay it.
He called me.
remote attendance, none expected. Accept agenda.
Feeling remote.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So move.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
And that carries unanimously. Takes us to public comment. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to make comments to the board? See no indication of that, so, and there are no new staff introductions. So we can move to the UPDAC report.
think there were a couple of errors on the minutes, but other than that, it was, I mean, what was mentioned as happening did happen. And it was a good meeting, I think.
was a very good
Yeah, it's
discussion.
always good for the community to hear about what Monica and Kim are doing. And what the Park District has done in response to what they found.
Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, then let's move on to our consent agenda. And on the consent agenda for this evening is approval of the minutes of the January 10 regular board meeting, the receipt of the 3 monthly departmental reports, administration, planning and operations, and recreation. Action to accept the philanthropy report and gifts listed with gratitude. And lastly, approval of the monthly paid accounts payable. It is the purview of any single commissioner to remove any or all of these items for separate discussion and action. Is anybody interested in removing anything from the consent agenda tonight?
No, I move we approve all of the action items on the consent agenda and accept the information items listed in an omnibus manner.
Second.
That's moved and seconded, and under our rules at this point, there is to be no further discussion, so we'll begin a roll call vote this time with Roger.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. So we can then move on to the financial reports.
Okay, we'll start with our revenue expenditure reports, as per usual. We're at 75% of our budget, 9 months in as of January 31st of 2023. The first page is our Sum 1. This is all funds, excluding the Capital Improvements Fund. Revenues were $12,630,696, and our expenditures were $10,647,952. That gives us a surplus after 9 months, meaning there are more revenues than expenses, and that net effect is a positive $1,982,744. Page 2 is labeled Sum 2. This is the Capital Improvement Funds fund standalone. Total revenues $2,492,607. Expenditures were $2,547,355. And expenditures exceeded revenues, resulting in a deficit of $54,747. The third report, Sum 3, this is all funds district-wide, and noting the very bottom line, our ending fund balance for all funds, $15,781,238. Remaining reports are the individual funds for the 3 main working funds for general, recreation, and museum. And the last page of this set of reports is our UIAC indoor pool fund. Our second set of reports, the treasurer report. This is the amount of cash the district has on a single day, January 31st, 2023. All 25 funds are listed there down the left. and where all of the cash is invested is displayed across the top. Bottom right-hand corner, investments to date, $18,349,554.47. Page 2, top half, lists all that we have in interest-bearing accounts. So of that $18,349,000 on page 1, we have $16,741,000 out in investments in varying rates. Bottom half of page 2 is our interfund loans. No new activity in that section. And page 3 is our list of disbursements for the month of January. Vendor payments here will match the accounts payable reports that's part of the consent agenda. And total disbursements of funds, which includes both payroll and vendor, is $558,898 for the month of January. I present to you the treasurer's report for audit.
I move to accept the treasurer's report for audit.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions on the item? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously.
All right. I did pass out an updated capital budgets report. We had something just in a wrong spot, so I wanted to give you a clean report. I've noted across the top what that change is, so that you have a record of that. The first page of the capital budgets report is our 2019 ARS bond, and there was no new activity in that fund during January, or in that budget. Next page is our 2023. We had some revenues, $3,480. That was the proceeds from an auction of one of our vehicles. Under expenditures, this was the change. Cost of issue, $6,700 to Spear Financial. That was in regards to our bond sale. That's part 1 of 2. There'll be one other bill. Capital budget 2022. Under expenditures, we had a small expenditure, $254 total under construction crew projects, miscellaneous hardware and supply items and such.
Oh, right. I believe we're
Budget
setting
20.
a record for number of pages for the capital budget. I mean, I used to think 4 sides, no, we're getting there.
Well, hopefully 2 of them will drop off here fairly quickly.
Yeah.
We're working on it. Capital budget 2021. The only expenditures here were in relation to the outdoor learning pavilion. We had $4,645 of an expense paid to ratio. That was for design costs. That was using our museum capital grant. And we also had $49,672 paid to Petrie Kuhn. That was in regards to construction, and that's using our museum fund transfer. As I said before, 2019A had no activity, neither did 2019, 18, or 17 during January. And I believe there are no other questions. Andy and Derek can give us some updates on capital projects.
Sure, I'll pull up my slides for the night. First, I wanted to touch base just on our Health and Wellness Center and some important dates that are coming up in the next month. We are currently out to bid on the facility. It was publicized beginning yesterday, and we have our current opening scheduled for March 8th. Excuse me. And then what we've also included is an option to extend that bidding window if we have a lot of questions or a lot of addendum that are included, and we want to give the bidders some extra time. And so that alternative bid opening would be March 14th, which is the date of the March board meeting. And so ultimately what we're looking to get from CORE is GMP, which is a guaranteed maximum price. And that will be received kind of dependent on when the bids are opened. So if we have a bid opening on March 8th, we would have that GMP number to share with the board at that March 14th meeting. And Corps anticipating on being at that meeting as well to help go through bids and the GMP. If we push back the bid opening to that 14th, Corps still intends on coming to that board meeting. We'll have the opening earlier that day. We can review kind of preliminarily what we've received for bids, how they're looking, but Corps would not have any time to provide us a GMP that same day, obviously. So then Corps, in their schedule, they're anticipating giving us the GMP on March 20th, and that would give us plenty of time to review, ask any questions we may have, and then we would have an award the March 28th special board meeting, which I believe is scheduled for 6:30 here before the UPDAC meeting. So just kind of wanted to review those dates as we're getting close through our bid schedule. And then, this may be the last meeting that I have pictures for you for the UPDAC Learning Pavilion. It's almost fully in our possession at this point. We had a punch list walkthrough with the contractor last week. There was a few minor adjustments that needed to be made, most of which have actually been completed up to this point as well. There's just a little bit more that's going to be done. And then so on the left, this was probably a little shortly before that punch list walk, so looking to the north at the pavilion. You can see a lot of the ground has also been prepped for seating, and 2 weeks ago the landscape contractor actually completed their native seating portions that was actually around most of the parking lot areas. This area that you see here by the sidewalks, any other disturbed soil by sidewalk is going to be turf seating, and that landscape contractor will be coming back to the site in March or April when weather would be advantageous to do that sort of landscaping work. And then they'll also do, they have 3 trees to plant on the site as well. One is in the parking island, and then there's 2 off to the be the east sides of the parking lots. And then so here in this other image, you can see the finished parking lot and the solar lights that were installed. They've been programmed, and we actually had a training this morning with the electrical subcontractor on the lighting control system for these solar lights, as well as the lighting controls for the interior of the pavilion as well. And just have a few little wrinkles we're ironing out with that, but we've been really pleased with how that's turning out to this point. So that moves us now to under the pavilion, looking at the lockable fireplace. You can see the LED lighting currently on underneath the pavilion, the single user restroom door to the right, and then the staff storage room. And then you can, I think since the last board meeting, the installation of all of the drop-down all-weather curtains was completed. I think there's about 10 individual curtains in total, and then I have a picture that kind of zooms in on what those all look like here. And there's basically a hand crank that you can bring down each individual curtain as staff may see fit. If there's one direction that maybe has a cold gust of wind, you don't have, you can obviously just put down one side. And there's these nylon straps that are bolted to a metal bar at the bottom, and you can see these are kind of nicely tucked up to the roofing here too. That kind of helps hide them. And then the straps actually go into these U-hooks that are foldable. They fold down into the concrete here, and then you can flip them up and then run your strap through and be able to tighten it and secure the curtains as we need. And now kind of going interior, these are staff only areas. So on the left is the storage room. This is primarily going to be used for nature day camp storage. The lighting control system's also housed on a different wall in this room. And we still need to we have the shelving, we need to get one of our refrigerators put in there, and then some firewood storage and a tote that I'm still looking to purchase. And then off on the right, this is through the single-user restroom. This is a staff-only area, custodial storage, mop sink. There's some plumbing fixtures in there. And then kind of final images of the single-user restroom. So on the left, I'm standing in the custodial storage looking out so you can see all the fixtures. And then image on the right, standing on the door that you would enter the restroom, and there's a baby changing station there immediately to the left. And so we have just a few other items that are kind of owner purchase items. We're looking to do. The contractor has a couple other finishing touches, and then I'm looking to get the doors rekeyed so they match our Park District pavilion keying system rather than what is now the contractor's keying system, so they have access to it. So then we'll finally take our possession of the facility and be ready to have a lot of Nature Day camp kids and environmental programs running out of here very soon.
Andy, is there a place there for, not in the bathroom, outside for some sort of sign with the up deck, the
Yeah,
whole
so-
up deck name on it? Where I looked around when I was up there and I couldn't quite decide where you were going to put it.
So we're looking at, there's a few different signs that we're actually looking at doing. One's an interpretation sign that's part of the grant, and that's been ordered.
Mm-hmm.
There is we're looking at a wood sign
Like
to
our
name
usual
like our park
sandblasted ones,
names,
yep,
yeah,
mhm.
park naming sign, maybe a smaller version. Keith's actually
Yeah.
looking at how that may lay out with the amount of letters and space we have now.
Yeah, it's not exactly a short name.
Right. And then the other thing we're looking at, we've just been emailing today and yesterday about it, is doing some sort of plaque to commemorate UPDAC that would then get mounted in a stone and then put on site.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So originally when we were looking at through design of the process, we were thinking of securing some sort of signage to the actual building, and then we kind of pulled back from that and decided we do something more like a monumental plaque outside.
Yeah, and there
then
really
like
isn't a
park
good,
sign.
there isn't a good place to hook it on the building either.
That
I
was
mean,
kind of the problem.
yeah. It really would only be on the east end and nobody's gonna see it. I mean, that's not the main,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, good,
I figured you
good
guys. had-
timely question.
Yeah. Well, I had an hour-long discussion with one of the Petrie, Cooney, how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think Gary, he told me that,
He said some old woman was up here and we were talking about Patrick Mahomes and everything. We did. He was a lovely guy to talk to. We had-
yeah, he's great.
I know all about his grandkids, granddaughters playing basketball and everything.
Yeah, oh
but-
yeah,
Yeah.
so do I.
Yeah, but that was him. Yeah, and me.
Yeah, he was great to work with.
This is a super random question, but is there like a drain in that baby changing station?
Is that flat or not? I can't
Because if it's like a bowl, then like I can imagine it being.
pee
I
on.
don't believe it. It's a bowl, it's concave.
Yeah.
I think that's a logo, is it not?
I think it's like
Like a
a,
sticker.
I don't think it's, yeah, but like a logo, like a,
Mhm.
it might be kangaroo or something
Right.
that's on it.
Oh, yeah, because that's the usual company. Okay, but it is I couldn't tell if it was flat or not.
No, it's
Okay,
not
it's not,
flat.
it's kind
So they don't roll out, you know.
Right, but then it's just like, I can just imagine it.
of filling up.
Yeah, just like being used as like a sink or something.
Ideally,
or-
they've filled up already and it's getting disposed from a diaper.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know, some random thought.
I'll mention one other thing about this project. If you get a chance or think about it, drive by at night. The parking lot lights have a neighbor blackout feature that prevents the light from migrating off-site. It's just phenomenal to look at it from Broadway. We know that the neighbors along Broadway are particularly sensitive about the light, and it's really working quite well.
That's cool.
Dark sky, features, obviously,
Yeah, it's-
solar powered. Yeah.
It's just I mean, the panel's probably, what, 8 by 12 maybe? It's really a teeny panel and it's all down, yeah.
That's great.
That was a really nice surprise to see that it was solar. I was really glad to see that.
Cool.
I did want to bring up some extraordinarily good news, I believe. This is with our ITEP Broadway project. You may remember that this was going out to bid towards the end of January, and it's an IDOT contract. So they do the bid themselves. And we had I wrote my numbers down. The estimate from our engineer that was submitted and approved by IDOT prior to bidding was $646,821. Our low bid ended up being from Stark, and Stark did the Park Street ITEP, and they also they're the contractor for the Crystal Lake Rehab. And they're also the contractor for the sanitary bridge. So they have a lot of work and investment and time in this park. So we were actually pretty pleased to see them coming back to our site. And they had a low bid of $430,250, which is
Hot damn.
a little more than $200,000 less than the engineer's estimate. So it's phenomenal news. We're pretty pleased with that.
Before I forget, Gary from Petrie
Yeah.
Cooney said how much he enjoyed working with the Park District
Oh, great.
and gave you, Andy, particular praise because he'd evidently been working with other folks who weren't as flexible or willing to listen to people who are actually on the ground and who were going to be, working on the building. And he said it was a real treat to work with the Park District. They were always glad to be working with the Park District. So thanks. I
Oh.
mean,
That's-
you're doing a
very
great
nice
job.
of him, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and
But
he- I mean, he
Gary was
cer-
great to work with
yeah,
throughout the whole process.
and he
so
didn't have to tell me that. So, I didn't say,
Yeah.
well, what do you think? I did not quiz him about everybody. Yeah.
Andy, what was the next lowest bid? I
The-
guess, are we excited and we're confident it's?
The next lowest was still underneath the engineer's estimate by
that's-
over $100,000. It was
okay.
$530,000.
That's just,
And then the other bid was almost $1 million. So I don't know
Okay, so-
what was going on with that
Whoa.
specifically.
That's an excellent question though, Meredith, because if we get a single really low bid, it's a red flag.
yeah, that's what I thought,
In
but,
this case, Stark knows the site very well, and I think it's just, that they have confidence in working with us, and that helps them sharpen their pencil.
it's fantastic, great.
Well, yeah, and I suspect some of that is they know how we are to work with and to know that the amount of difficulty is like 1.2 as opposed to 8.9. And that makes a huge difference. Yeah.
So kind of moving on to next steps with this project, we have funding agreements that need to be executed for construction and construction engineering. And those are at IDOT's central office in Springfield. Once those are approved, they will be, from what I'm told from our District 5 coordinators, sent to us. We'll need to get signatures, 5 copies, sent back to them, and that'll be the final execution. And I believe at that point, we would probably have a pre-construction meeting at IDOT District 5 with the contractor, and then start getting some more detailed information as far as scheduling and how construction layout will move forward into this summer and into September. So that's all I had. Happy to answer any other questions.
That's me.
Okay, then we can move on to the executive director's report. Tim?
All right, got a few updates. Let's see, starting out, just want to report, we had a terrific IPRA, IAPD conference. February 16th, we do have a debriefing with staff. If anybody would like to join us, you're free to do that. We're meeting here at Kerr at 11:30 to about 1 o'clock. Bring your lunch if you would like to hear what the conference had to offer and some of the takeaways. We really like to do that. It helps reinforce the learning, and not all of us can go to every session, so it's a good way to get a little preview or a follow-up. Just a reminder, we have the IAPD Legislative Breakfast, Monday, February 27th, starting in the morning, right here at Kerr, so hope everybody can attend. I think we've heard from most of our legislators. We're still poking one and hoping that they're able to join us.
Wouldn't that be?
Just some ARPA updates on health and wellness. We're hoping to hear from the city of Urbana by February 27th. That was the date the mayor gave us. Obviously, we don't know if there's delays or uncertainties. We'll continue to wait. That was her best guess of when she thought it would be in final form, so we keep waiting on that. We reached out to the county to see if we could come visit with them, have not heard back, so maybe they're waiting for some finality of the city ARPA outcome before they'll entertain our meeting. Moving on to Prairie Play, we had our last fundraising meeting. Everything's moving in the right direction. I think probably kind of our main shift is, I think what we've learned from operations, planning operations, is there's a long delay in when equipment can be ordered and when it's delivered. So we really want to kind of time our fundraising efforts so we don't get everybody out there thinking about it, and then if we had up to a year wait, that would be a little bit anticlimactic. So
Is that right?
that's, I think, what we're hearing on that equipment. So, again, if we learn sooner, we may be able to speed things up, but we want to try to pace ourselves. But given that, still gives us more time to go out and talk to people, hopefully raise some more additional funds. So you may hear about things, and we might have some quiet time, but we just didn't want months and months to go by with no activity or no news. Likewise, we didn't want to tear anything down until we were absolutely sure. And then lastly, we still have not heard about the grant. We were hoping sometime this month. Yet on the other hand, we heard that the next round for 2023 of OSLAD is out. So it's kind of nice. We wish they would announce the winners of the last one before the next one rolls
Oh,
out.
right, yep.
But it may come just on the tail end of that, so we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of the other OSLAD grant, currently staff are pretty uncertain. We're not likely to apply for that grant. We don't believe we have matching funds. All of our other monies are committed, but we'll take a look at the budget again and see where we are and look at the schedules of when things might likely be paid out. So obviously we hate to miss a cycle, but we definitely would want a good project that could be funded and have funds to meet our match, which, you know, depending on the size of the scope of the project, it could be difficult. Work at Prairie Park and Weaver Park continues with the master plan. We're excited. The focus groups will be starting soon, so we'll hope to get some more information about that. We'll continue working and sharing information as we go. I think at the April study session, we plan to have our draft goals, district-wide goals to share with everyone, so stay tuned for that. If you have thoughts or any ideas or anything on your list, let us know. Be happy to try to fold it in. So we'll continue with that. Just an update on the King Park Peace Poll. We did secure, I couldn't remember if I reported last month, but we did secure our Rotary grant. We've made an application for a city arts grant, and we've brought on the two of the artists that'll be working with us, and they're able to scale the work. It's a relatively small project, you know, with that amount, but they'll be able to scale it up or down based on what we have. And what we determined as far as activities for families or kids or youth, at Jetty Roads Day, we'll do a major community art project, and that piece will be a companion piece. We hope to have the peace pole in place and be able to celebrate that and have some other kids' art to complement that. So we're excited. The Heritage Trail portion of that at King Park is probably going to take a lot longer. We're not in a rush. We want to get the peace pole, so we've kind of put that up front. Let's get that part done, and then continue to look at what funding supports and information we can start working with people on that larger piece. Again, we're, I think, looking at partnerships with Park District, School District, the library, the city. Certainly Urbana Rotary is interested. We've already received some funding set aside for that project, so we're excited about that. But nothing to look at or take a look at yet. Reminder, the Champaign-Urbana Special Rec is doing the Greasish Cabaret presentation on March 5th at the CUSR Center, so if you're free to join us, please do. That's one of the theater pieces. We alternate seasons with film and theater. We rotate back and forth. It's been very, very fun, and I guess it's going to be a large cast, a lot of songs, so it should be really good. Let's see, moving on to a couple other quick things. I think for the Wandell 25th anniversary, I think we have a date set for our final two pieces that'll be coming in March over the Bradley University spring break when our sculptors are free. So we'll be getting those into place. And staff's talking about moving forward with the sculpture interpretive node that's on the south end of the short loop at the Wandell Garden to provide us the interpretive information about that and recognize sculpture donors. I think
That's a good idea.
that's all I have on my list, but I can answer any questions that you might have.
When do the sculptures disappear, the extra?
Let's see, depending on when they come, they'll be here for a 2-year
2-year, okay.
cycle. If we can renew any of them that we like, we can. We have a lot, so we probably have to look at our budget and see what we have
I
to.
really think it's nice to have the one that connects the unofficial path to, I don't know what over to
Tumbleweed.
Yankee Ridge.
South?
Yeah,
South side?
yeah.
The
I don't know what you call, near the bird or the overlook.
Oh, okay, right on the south side
Is
there.
it one that
Tumblegate.
looks like an arch?
Tumblegate.
Yes, Tumblegate,
arch.
yes, the
Yeah.
arch.
Down
It's
toward the southeast.
Beautiful. Yeah, I
Yes.
just saw
It
that.
just, I mean, it's just whether or not that is there, it's just that it sort of looks like it's an entry point, right?
Nice.
And so it just,
We like that.
I like that a lot.
We set it
so.
up so it would work that way. And, I think truth be told, all of us, some of us, many in the community have probably gotten attached to a lot of the pieces. So I'm a little concerned when we have to set
Right.
things. A little worried about that.
Yeah.
As much as we could promote that it was through a special fund and here for the celebration, and they weren't permanent, you get attached. And so we're looking at, anybody that would be interested to help us, keep, something that, is high priority.
But sometimes some changeover is
It
a
does.
good thing,
It is.
actually. It keeps it fresh.
It does. And so, it'll probably be, maybe the disappearance factor, and then maybe once we get back to a more of a normal, people regroup. But hopefully people are coming out, they're enjoying, have some fun for Jazz Walk. By the way, we did get the date. It's September 15th for Jazz Walk. Janet was waiting to find out about the Elnora event. And it'll be a little bit later, so probably have to move the event up a little bit just because the light starts to fade. And so that'll trigger our foundation event, might need to go earlier. So we'll get the information out, start working with all the teams on that. But yeah, I think it's been very successful. We got a lot of attention. I think a lot of people have come to visit, and I think it's been very successful in celebrating that.
Well, disappearance of those pieces of sculpture, you can always tell people that if they can find enough like-minded folks, that, we could
Right.
talk to the sculptor, see if we could
Right.
broker a
Certainly we
deal.
can
Yeah.
always get more, so that's an option with help, so. But, overall, as you all know, we've done a remarkable thing with a pretty low budget.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
not in a competitive mode of, major gardens or named parks. So I think for a local park district, it's right up there with some of the best. Any other questions about other areas? That's all I had, Michael.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Moving on to the president's report. Nothing special to report other than upcoming meetings. Again, Tim's already mentioned the legislative breakfast on the 27th of February. Study session March 7, which undoubtedly health and wellness is going to be a major topic there, and I see that there's some chance of the ADA updates for 2023 also potentially being at that meeting. The regular board meeting on the 14th, and I think Andy went through some of the schedule, so that may or may not be heavily consumed with reviewing bids. And as a backstop, we have a March 28, 2023 special board meeting on the calendar for dealing with health and wellness.
Is it really a backstop or is it really we're gonna need to meet?
I don't know.
We don't know yet.
On the 28th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna approve
That
on
would
the
be the
28th.
special board meeting.
It's
Okay.
But we don't know whether we're gonna need it, right?
No,
Oh, we need it.
We do need it.
I thought
Okay.
we needed
That
it.
is
Okay.
Okay,
the award.
so we're almost certainly going to use it, okay.
Yes.
a very small item. The first Sunday morning bird walks are March 5th, rather than the 19th.
The
What's
what's
that
on
one
March?
The first Sunday morning bird walks
Ah.
would be the 5th rather than the 19th,
Ah, okay.
all the way to March.
Judging from what I hear in the morning, there'll be things out there to see. new things.
We'll see what the weather does.
I don't know. I'll lend you my Carolina wren if things are getting slow.
Had red-winged blackbirds this morning at Meadowbrook.
There were who?
Red-winged blackbirds.
Yeah, I had one at the feeder today, yeah.
Okay, moving on to liaison reports. Finance Study Group met on the 13th of January and discussed a number of things, most of which have ended up either at our study session or tonight's meeting. I don't think I recall much of anything that we covered that is not
Well,
has
can you
not
tell us
already
about the
come to the
phones
board.
and cameras?
Oh, actually, yeah, we did, and a long sad tale in many regards. But perhaps you would like to speak to that a little bit, Derek.
On the phones, we were advised shortly before the system went down that our current system is obsolete, to where they couldn't get parts to replace it anymore. And so we began having some discussions about preparing for that transition when the main kind of brains of the system here at Kerr went kaput. And they were able to cobble something together on the existing platform where we at least have a phone, that rings at each facility, except for Phillips Recreation Center. Currently, Phillips, because of the system that was in place there, everything's forwarded to the Nature Center, which was another workaround that we worked on. We don't have extensions right now. We don't have individual voicemail. And so we've been working towards this solution. We went, we thought would be live, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago at Phillips, and when we went live, it basically took down the city of Urbana phone system, fire and police without phones for a brief period of time before they shut it down.
Jeez.
And it required some re-engineering on the part involving both the city of Urbana and our consultant to the system we have currently, which employs a higher level voice, a SD-WAN device, which is a newer, better version of a firewall. And we were able to negotiate getting those included at really no additional cost to the district, which was pretty phenomenal. And they provide some additional functionality that if in the future we want to have a failover network, a second fiber or something like that in case the I3 goes down, they can handle that traffic. So there's some benefits that come out of having those at each facility. So right now, on Thursday, they're going to go back to Phillips and give it another go. And they're pretty confident they've got it figured out at this point. So we're all crossing our fingers, and if it goes well,
Not as much
then they'll
as
go
the
from
police.
facility to facility, and we'll get the new phone system. So that's the phones. And then security cameras. At State Conference, they had a presentation on security cameras, and one thing that we have to be cognizant of is that video footage is FOIAble, and we need to update our policy to account for the fact that we will have those records available for a set period of time, after which they get recorded over, and get a better recording system that records over them at a set interval. Right now, the system we have doesn't do that.
Is there a limit, a different time limit for, FOIAble goes on forever, so how does that?
We can set the parameters.
Oh, we can?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are in control of how long?
The attorneys were recommending 60, maybe 90 days.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
And that'll also become of our records destruction policy as well. So that's one aspect of it. And the other is we are advised that if you have cameras that are not operational, there's sort of a liability
Yeah,
associated
that
with
is
that.
a major problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we are working towards a solution right now. And it appears that we found a solution that will work with our liability fund. It would be a service agreement as opposed to us owning the cameras. They would stay in the ownership of our provider, and they would provide them to us as part of a service agreement. They do it for computers for other agencies.
Sure.
So we're waiting on that proposal, have Matt review it, and then we can move forward.
And then that relieves us of all the storage and, that's terrific. Yeah.
And do I gather then that it's highly not recommended to ever put up dummy cameras. I mean, yeah.
Right.
you-
Remember those days when we were recommended to put up cameras that even if they don't work? Well, it was a bad idea then, and now it's not
even
even
worse.
legal,
Yeah.
so.
It's actually illegal.
Well,
Yeah.
I believe that's
I don't know
the
if it's
situation.
illegal, but it's certainly, you're going to get sued
Mhm.
if,
Yeah, right,
That's it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
if someone thinks you have them and you don't.
right.
Mhm.
I would call that a legal issue.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's,
But it's for entities, not for individuals. Right?
I'm not sure about the private
Oh.
individual side. We're
It's,
just
I mean, it's
hearing
stuff that's
about the
come up at the
public side.
university, so it's definitely for,
Derek, one question that I had was, do police have automatic access to that? Do they have to go through the FOIA process?
We would write the policy updated to reflect that we would just give them the footage.
Okay.
So that, yeah, we've got a sample policy that one of the attorneys that does a lot of work with this up north has provided.
Okay.
Typically now, they come to us if they want to check out our cameras that we do have.
Okay.
But anybody else would need to, I mean, outside law enforcement would need to FOIA the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's good coverage.
Okay.
Thank you.
The policy study group
we have not met, so,
No.
no updates.
and Parks Foundation, Roger?
I was not there. Tim, was there anything of,
Just had our usual updates and just ongoing work. Talking about the event coming up with Barn Bash. The event committee has some activities they're going to be getting ready for. I think the finance committee wants to meet again. We definitely want to submit our annual budget. That's a new piece. We'll have an annual working budget for the foundation. So that's something we haven't had in place. We've always had a spending plan, but not a sort of a put together budget. So that's probably the latest updates.
thank you.
And the UPTEC Planning Study Group?
We met semi-recently, and we'll meet again in like 5 months, 6 months.
Okay, then we're ready to move on to old business. There was nothing removed from the consent agenda, so there's nothing to do there. Under new business, action to award annual bid for program guide printing services.
Mark's here tonight to walk us through the bid information, answer any questions.
Good evening, everyone. At the end of 2022, we ran an ad in the News Gazette and sent out bid requests to 24 printing companies to bid on a sealed bid to print 22,000 copies of our program guide for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. We opened the bids on January 17th. We received 4 bids, which is the most sealed bids we've received in my 4 years of doing this. Many times the bids are very close and competitive, sometimes less than $1,500 apart, but not this year. So staff recommends that the board accept the bid from KK Stevens Publishing to print the program guide with offset paper, additional glossy cover, and full color with 60-pound paper, 3 times in fiscal year 23-24 at a cost of $45,925. They will print 2 editions of 80 pages and 1 edition of 72 pages. This represents an increase of roughly $4,000 over last year, $4,000. And we have used KK Stevens before, but this is the first time, again, since I've been here, that they've won the bid.
I move to award the bid for printing the 2023-2024 seasonal program guides to KK Stevens Publishing for 2 80-page print runs and 1 72-page print run with a total price not to exceed $45,925.
Second?
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions on the matter? Hearing none, we can do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
I,
Aye.
and that carries unanimously
Thank you.
and takes us,
Thanks, Mark.
cutting the ribbon, it's just wait. You're done.
takes us to recreation statistics review for calendar year 2022.
At our study session last week, if you recall, we did the managers' interviews and reporting on the details of their programs, and tonight we have the numerical information. Corky's going to walk us through and answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, so tonight, obviously, typically, I've gone through and kind of walked through the first 4 pages, which are the summary sheets. Obviously, you have a lot more statistics that are all kind of moved forward to these summary sheets. But what I thought I'd do tonight, obviously, if you look at the numbers compared to 2021, we're in the upward tick in a majority of our areas. What I thought I would do is kind of talk about pre-COVID and tell you comparison of the numbers from where we were in 2019 to where we are now. So we're making some strides, but we still got room to grow. On page 1 of the 2022, you can see that our total visits district-wide were 319,053. Back in 2019, that number was 413,000. So still about 94,000 total visits short of where we were before COVID. So as we're definitely making improvements, still got some room to grow.
Do you, I mean, you may not have the numbers in front of you, but do you have a sense of, is it across to all areas, or does something stand, or maybe you do have them right in front of you. Does something stand out?
The only area that is close to being equal is in outreach and wellness, the 41,311. In 2019, it was 40,498. But everything else is a good, well, some are really drastic, like community programs, 133,000
Oh, wow.
in 19, and it's 66 now, right? So
And are we offering the same number of programs? Is that part of this as well? Like
we're starting to, but you also have to realize that even with, well, camps, for example, you know, getting staffing, so the
Right.
staffing level had kind of toned down the number of participants we can have.
Yep.
The big thing, well, you've seen a big boost in community from 21 to 22, and that's kind of getting into the special events, the neighborhood nights, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different factors, and there's a lot of programs that are up and going, but they weren't as big yet. But I hope to see that happen in the coming year. But everything else outside of community programs is roughly about 20,000 less compared to pre-COVID. If that helps you any.
environmental is down though?
Environmental,
I mean, this
actually
year,
environmental's up,
from pre-COVID, but down from last year.
yes, but it's also up 22,000 from pre-COVID.
Okay, wow.
One of the things that I thought was interesting was that for the environmental programs that had to do with going from remote programming
Mhm.
to in-person programming. That's the same thing we found with Audubon programs. We were getting 3 times as many people on Zoom as we were in person
Yeah.
before COVID. So
Right. Yep. Any more questions on that top chart? Okay, so moving to the second, the rental totals. We were down from pre-COVID numbers. We are at 1,913 total rentals. And then So that's a 742 rentals difference. And I think that kind of goes into play with, you know, people were trying to rent and have their own private things more, and still were a little bit
Sure.
this year compared to what they used to do, where they just came and were a part of programs. Overall rental revenue in 2019, before COVID, we were at 146,665. So we're down about 39,000 in rental income. As we go on to programs offered and canceled, again, if you remember me over the years, I've always said between the 8 and 10% is a good number. So I'm pretty pleased with what this number is.
Yeah.
And ironically, the percentage in 2019 was 92.62. So we had 74 canceled in 2019. Program-wise, we actually had more programs offered now than we did in 2019. 2019 was 1,003 programs. And then, moving on to the volunteers section. We're actually blowing that out of the water. In 2019, we had 2,425 total hours for a market value of 59,414. So anyhow, I thought today or tonight would be a good opportunity to run the pre-COVID numbers to now, so you can kind of see how we're moving back up. And I did attach the PowerPoint presentation in the packet. Hopefully everybody got it.
And I assume you are hopeful that the upward trends are likely to continue for most areas at this point?
Yeah, I see them continuing to move up.
Yeah.
It's based
Especially-
on staffing.
What's that?
Maybe, like with camps, are we still facing
Oh, we're
challenges?
still gonna have struggles with staffing, but, it wasn't just staffing that kind of, while the programs were growing, there were still, especially in the, the first part of the year, summer even, there were some people that were still timid to get out and be amongst others. So even with camps though, we had, especially at Phillips, we had a pre-K group that was in one space. They were still masked. And then we had another group that was in the other two rooms. So whenever you gotta divide it out like that, that limits the number of space that you can offer. So I expect the trend to keep going up.
Anything you're really concerned about?
Staffing.
So that's the,
How about really excited about?
What I'm excited about is that the growth that we've seen since, the year before, and people being excited about being out. Our outreach programs are, the attendance was just marvelous. Our partnerships are continuing to grow. I just think everything's going to continue to improve. Our relationships in our community are going up. My main concern is the staff, getting the part-time staff.
I was excited to hear that when Tim and Corky met with Jeff Scott from the Y, they're back to where they were pre-COVID. That's great news.
I think they're slightly above. They said a little over 100%
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what they were doing before, increase, so.
So people are definitely coming back and being a part of things, so, that's a good thing. And we're continuing to grow in our outreach, which is on top of a lot of stuff that we traditionally have done, so. It's exciting times, staff are super pumped to make more inroads in our community, and, just need those part-timers to come work for us.
And I gather you are hopeful that you'll be able to lure more youth out of the high school to possibly be potential staff.
Yes, we're working on a couple different fronts. Tim and I had met with the new Freedom
Freedom
School.
Mhm.
But we also have lots of inroads with going into the schools, helping people apply for jobs. We just had a meeting again the other day talking about the summer youth program. We've got 35, 40 teenagers that are coming to our hangout zones, so hopefully we can entice them to come work. So we're doing everything we can to get them into our district and be a part of our team.
Be a good place to work.
It for questions for Corky. There was no new business removed from the consent agenda, so that will bring us to comments from commissioners. This is a new first. I guess we're all commented out, and we have therefore exhausted our agenda, so I will declare us adjourned. Thank you all.
Mhm.